All right, so boom, welcome back to another episode of the Black Caliber Podcast, where we highlight leaders shaping industries and breaking barriers. Today we have a powerhouse in business and technology, Tony Starks, CEO of Starks Industry. His company is making waves in the federal and commercial spaces, providing top-tier management, consulting, cybersecurity, and IT services. But behind all the success is a journey of vision, resilience, and strategy. We're diving into how Tony built his brand, the emotional toll of high-stakes leadership, and his commitment to partnering with HBCUs. If you're an entrepreneur, a business leader, or just someone looking for inspiration, this one's for you. So let's get into it. All right. So first, how you feeling today?
Oh, feeling great.
How's it feel to be at the first HBCU?
Well, it's an honor. You know, this is my first time here at Lincoln University, and happy to be here on campus, and hopefully this won't be my last time here. So
okay. So let's start off. So what you said earlier, you were telling me you're from DC, and you went to the real HU, and we ain't gotta get into that. I've been beefing with them on the podcast for a while now.
Okay.
You went to the real HU Hampton. So what was your major there?
So I was a math major.
You was a math. Oh,
yes.
So did you come in knowing you was a math major, or it was always your gift?
I was always good with numbers, and it was just one of those things where it was going to either be mathematics or engineering, one of those two. Yes.
All right. So did you know where you wanted to go with the math major?
Back then, it was very important to have a scientific background in knowing that I can get into some type of technology field. I didn't know exactly what, but I knew it was going to be in the arena of business and technology, right? Mm-hmm. So I also got my master's degree in business administration as well, so to help balance it out.
So all right, so you knew you wanted to connect them. So where did you go out of college? When you first stepped out, did you immediately step out into trying to create Starks Industries, or did you go work for somebody else? What was that journey?
So that was it was a great opportunity for me to work in industry. So I started working with a company called GE Aerospace back in the early 80s. I'm telling my age. And it was a great opportunity for me to learn. I was able to participate in a lot of leadership development courses. I got an opportunity to learn some of the things about how business run from a large corporation perspective. And it was very helpful because it gave me a chance to really see how not only from a division would operate, but also how a business unit would operate. So I was able to kind of see the difference between how strategic business units within a large corporation work, and how that kind of comes together as a large corporation. So it was a good experience.
And how long did you work there?
So I worked with GE Aerospace for about 15 years, but the company that I worked for, they got bought out by Lockheed, and then Lockheed merged with Martin Marietta, and then so the 15 years was with Lockheed Martin, but part of that was GE Aerospace under the same brand. So that was a good run, and back in those days, it was kind of understood that the loyalty piece was always a part of my my background. So I always felt like I needed to stay and put in my time so I can learn as much as I can. So that was 15 years that I spent working with Lockheed Martin, which was in the beginning GE Aerospace.
All right. So what prompted you to even leave? You talk about that loyalty piece.
That's right. Yeah, but that's a good question. So part of it was just the upward mobility aspect of it. Working for a large corporation, a lot of times back in those days, it kind of felt like a number, within the organization, and there was but so far you can go, right? So I decided, I wanted to go off and, work, do something different. And, I decided to work for a international organization, the U.S. Agency for International Development, so USAID. So while I was there, so I left Lockheed. Everybody said, "Wow, you're gonna leave Lockheed?" I said, "Yes." I resigned and took a job with USAID as the chief information officer, and did that for about 3 years. And then I came back to Lockheed. And what that did for me was it pushed me up a little higher.
In the so like you hit your max there, so now that you left and came back, you got another ceiling.
Exactly.
All right.
Yes. So that was a game changer for me, you know. So that's what triggered my change. You know, I said, okay, I've got to go outside of Lockheed, you know, to progress and get that C-suite level expertise and experience, and then come back. So, bless you.
Thank you.
So that was how that's what led me to leave, but that was just half of my career. 15 years with, you know. Bless you.
I felt the other one coming.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one there. So I also work with small businesses as well. So I worked for 5 years for 2 other small businesses, which also helped me to really figure out, you know, what was required to operate as a small business, right? So you okay, my brother? Okay, hang in there. Okay, get it out. Get that thing out.
I'm sitting there like, I'm fighting it to him. Dude, allergies been killing
That's all right. That's all right. No worries.
Before y'all came, I had the thing on my eyes, make sure my eyes were white, not red.
Yeah, but you look good. You look healthy.
I'm trying. I'm
so
not
stay
sick,
strong. Stay strong, brother.
All right.
Yeah. But to answer your question, yeah, so 15 years with Lockheed Martin, started out with GE Aerospace, and then I spent the other 10 years working with 2 small businesses, and that's where I really learned the ropes in terms of, you know, how do you really run a business, right? And that's what propelled me to start Starks Industries, you know, so.
So I'm guessing at this point in your life, you've been working almost 20 years.
Yes.
So I'm guessing you've started a family, I'm guessing.
Yes.
So then how did it feel taking that leap from that secure position into entrepreneurship where things aren't so certain anymore?
Yes.
Like, because you're working for Lockheed Martin, which is, you know, one of the biggest government agencies. So, like, that's going to be around.
Yes.
You know you're getting that paycheck.
Yes, that's right.
But when you stepped out, how was that? What was that like? What was the decision, the real driver to do that?
Sure. Yeah, it was not easy, you know, because when you take risks, you know, you have to understand that the more risks you take, there's rewards for it. So, and because I was in a place where, you know, I had prepared myself, you know, to run a business, I said, okay, this is the right time. And I think, you know, when you're going through your career path and you're trying to figure out what's the trigger, what makes you decide to go launch and become an entrepreneur, you know, it's got to be something that's inside of you that drives you. And for me, it really was all about the upward mobility and seeing that, you know, there was only so far I could go. And with my skill sets, my training, you know, professional qualifications, I was like, wait a minute, you know, I can do this, right? So, you know, I talked to, you know, my wife and, you know, say, hey, kids are, you know, grown, almost out of the house, right? So that was another key part, right?
They're almost out.
Kids who are almost out, and then eventually they, you know, my kids are in their 30s. So by the time I launched Starks Industries, they were out. They graduated from college. So that part of the responsibility of raising a family was intact. You know, so it was in place. But like anything that is going to cost you a lot, if it doesn't go right, you have to think through it very hard and make a tough decision. And I'm so glad I did. I made it, you know, 10 years ago, and I haven't looked back, you know.
So Starks was your first entrepreneurship venture?
Yes, very first, and will be the last. And the good news about it is, you know, my oldest son actually works for my company now. So he's been on board for 2 years last week. So my objective is to help, you know, share the light, you know, share the light with him on some of the, you know, the things that you have to do to run a business, and hopefully he may be interested in taking it on, but who knows, right?
Yeah.
But my intent is to run it for another 8-9 years and turn it into something that creates wealth for the family and it excuse me, and it seems like when you associate with the right people, if you got the right folks that are part of your team, it just happens. It comes together, and that's what I'm feeling that right now. It's like I've kind of put in all the work, and one of the key things that I mentioned earlier was the fact that we just got accepted in this 8A program through the Small Business Administration. So we're 8A certified small business, which means it really it's a game changer because it's a business development program that's put in place to help small businesses to scale, right, and to be ready to compete in a competitive market because there's so many barriers that that are out there to prevent small businesses from being successful. So this program, it took me about 3 years to get in it, and as a matter of fact, we received our first sole source 8A contract this week. So I actually signed the contract yesterday for some work to support the executive office of the U.S. attorneys in Virginia. So it's working. I'm feeling.
Yeah, I can see you excited. You start smiling when you talk about that.
Yeah, man. That's what, because that's what it's all about. It's creating a base contract level that can sustain your headquarters, your overhead staff, and then
everything from that profit.
Yep, profit and growth and profit. Yep.
All right. So you step out, you made it. So then, what was your initial goal with Starks? Right. So now that you created, I'm guessing you got your LLC, or did you go straight for the incorporation? I'm not sure. And then how did that journey grow into getting to where you are now that you're in this SBA? Yes. Like that 10-year journey.
Yeah, that's a good question. So my initial go-to-market strategy was try to help other businesses, right? Create this business-to-business strategy, right? Where we, I say, okay, I'll help you first to grow your business. And then as a result, we build a partnership, right? So hence our theme, building partnerships for success, right? And that was part of my tag, right? That we start that way, and then we start transitioning into doing contracts with the federal government and commercial contracts. So go from a business to business to a business to government, business to commercial, and it worked, because we were able to get the fundamental past performance in place that you need to have. It's like the chicken or the egg kind of thing, where you can't get a contract unless you have past performance, but you can't get past performance unless you got a contract. So I was going through that for a while, and finally got a breakthrough. Right, started doing some work for one of our clients, and they said, "Hey, we like what you're doing. Can you help us out in Connecticut? How about in San Diego? How about in Texas?" So we have small teams in about 7 different states, providing contract support services, litigation technology, health IT. So we've got a pretty good team. Yep.
Right.
Yep. So that's pretty much what kind of got me going, but at this stage, I'm at a place where I'm trying to transition from being a strong subcontractor to a strong prime contractor. And the deal I mentioned earlier that I was excited about, that was our first prime contract. So I'm at that place where
it's another breakthrough.
Oh, it was a serious breakthrough. And then the other thing I mentioned was the fact that we got accepted in Worldwide Technology's Impact 2025 program 2 months ago, and so they announced it that we made the down select, and then they made the official announcement in January that we were a part of that. Now, I mentioned before they're a $22 billion corporation. That's a minority-owned company, and they're trying to give back. So they have a mentor protege program. We're in that. So I'm basically looking at it as a way for them to help mentor Starks Industries to scale, to help us to scale. And you don't get that a lot. You don't have the opportunity to find somebody that can mentor your business. So I mentor a lot of other businesses as well. Mm-hmm. But you gotta be a mentor. You gotta have mentors. So that's what's helping me to get to where I need to be. So.
All right. And also, as I mentioned in your intro, that you're looking to partner with HBCU. So what do you think? What does that supposed to look like in your head? Like, what are you trying to achieve with that?
Well, that's I mean, it's near and dear to my heart. See, I'm an HBCU graduate myself, mm-hmm. and I have two sons that are also HBCU graduates. So I'm very interested in finding ways to partner with HBCUs, and I see it in several ways. One, bringing innovation, bringing technology, bringing some of the things that I do for my government customers to HBCUs. For example, we're a value-added reseller for a cybersecurity technology called the Black Pearl. And what that does is it creates an environment where you can actually have a sort of a training environment where you could be in a secure space where you can test and do type of things that if you were working on a classified contract, you would need to have this type of scenario where if asked a question, you can't like go Google and get the answer and give an answer to some question, right, that maybe you didn't really know the answer, but you got some help. Mm-hmm. So with this platform, it gives organizations an opportunity to test students in an environment where they could be like monitored and things like that. So it's a neat technology, but we do more than that. We do office automation tools and hardware, software services. So we're not just working with customers to provide consulting services. We also sell products, right? Mm-hmm. So for example, if a customer wanted to buy 1,000 computers, for example, they could reach out to us and say, hey, could you give me a quote for these 1,000 computers? And we would purchase that for them on their behalf, or we would submit a bid for it and hopefully compete and win it. Mm-hmm. So that's another way we make ends meet or increase our revenue.
Okay.
Right.
Because I was also wondering, because I'm like a lot of HBCUs now, like money seems to be an issue.
Yes.
So. And working with them, it's like it can't be a money thing. You can't be looking for a lot of bread if you're coming for HBCUs. So I was wondering, how do you even plan on navigating that aspect?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because part of it is having the ability to do the grant writing, because there's a lot of funds available to help HBCUs to enhance research and development, to bring capabilities to the student base, right? So that's one aspect of it, is to be able to kind of assist with some of the grant writing, because in my company we have to write proposals. We have to understand how that proposal development cycle works. So that's a skill set that we have as a small business, right? So we could bring some of that to HBCUs and try to help kind of build that capability internally. But we also we know that there are certain times we're going to have to give back, and when we do well, we can do more to help, right? I like to say that I have community service projects where I actually try to participate. For example, being here today, this is pro bono. I came out and did a presentation on cybersecurity for the students, and that's part of one of the things that I like to do to encourage and to give back to HBCUs. So it's not just creating revenue streams with HBCUs to get funds back, but it's also the excitement that you see in the students' eyes when you share something that touches them, and you can motivate. I also would like to create an opportunity for internships where we can get some students to come and help, with some of the routine tasks through internship programs. In fact, I understand that Washington D.C. has a service where they will funnel students from HBCU, not just HBCUs, but from just colleges in general, to small businesses, and they will pay their salaries. So as a small business based in Washington D.C., that's exciting to me, But as far as HBCUs are concerned, I've had a couple interns from HBCUs. I had one from Morgan State, one from Hampton. So I believe that that's another way that I can engage with HBCUs, and so hopefully, like I said, this is the start of the partnership. Just by being here today, I think.
Okay.
So let's see where it goes.
And with that, do you have any advice or anything that you want to say to anybody watching who may be trying to get to where you are or starting their own business?
Yeah, I'd say that, if you're passionate about something, you do the research, right? Find out, who's done it before. Find a couple resumes of the folks who've done it. Look at where they've been. Look at the resume, because it'll tell you a story about what path that they've been on, and try to model that. I think a lot of times we try to reinvent the wheel, and I always tell folks that in order to be successful in this field, you got to find something that you're committed to doing that kind of fires you up. And if it's in the IT field, if it's in any field, you just got to discover that, and then be willing to make the sacrifices sometimes, because you may have to take care of your employees for a little while and until you get to a place where you can take care of yourself. So as a business owner, you have to have that kind of understanding that your payback is going to be in the long run, right? So because a lot of people are counting on you, as a business owner. So if you do step into that space, just know that there's a lot of responsibility, and but there's a lot of reward, and it's worth it, because I see the value now that we're at a place where we built like the infrastructure and we're ready to scale, because that's the real key step, right? And it took me first 5 years to get it together, and then at the 10-year mark, it seemed like everything that needed to be in place. Now, some people probably can do it faster, but that's what it took on my journey, and I would say just whatever a person wants to get into, just be committed to it, and find good partners, right?
Find good people.
Good people. Also, I mentioned this earlier about mentorship. Be a good mentor and find a good mentor, because that's half of the battle is talking to someone about what it is that you're doing, that has done it, has seen it, and they can give you some real good practical advice.
Okay. And with that, can I just get you to say that this is the Black Caliber Podcast?
Say again. This is the Black Caliber Podcast.
Yes,
All right.
All right.
Excellent. Good job.